Cloud. There we go. Hi, Atara. How are you? Thank you for joining me under these strange COVID circumstances. And we just passed Blue Monday here in Canada, and it's good to see cherry faces for a change out in our volleyball community, especially from our athletes, which are the people that we miss the most. We do get a lot of engagement with coaches and a lot of engagement with referees over this last year, but in person with athletes, even via Zoom, has just not been the same, as you can imagine, right? You guys are basically the blood of what keeps things going in our sport. Um, so I just wanted to ask you, how has your experience been in volleyball over COVID in general?
Well, thank you for having me. First of all, I'm super excited to be here and talk about my story in Project Pastels. Yeah, COVID has definitely not been what we expected. It's almost been a year since we've been in lockdown, so which is crazy. Provincials got canceled last year. I thought that would be the worst part of it, which it was. We couldn't really practice much over the summer. We did practice a little bit in the fall. And now we're in lockdown again, so we can't practice. So yeah, it's all been about trying to find ways to connect with my teammates over social media, Google Meet, all of that, and trying to stay physically fit. That's been pretty tough too, but we're managing. So
Good, good. At least you guys are keeping really positive about the entire circumstance, but I guess that's all we can do. I mean, I have to say the entire volleyball community has been doing, we've basically been doing that, really taking a positive approach to it and pushing forward. So I know you from the Tall Maples program at first. It's how we first crossed paths. And then, of course, I knew you grew up playing in Pakmen. This would have been your last year in Pakmen 18U. Um, and beyond that, I mean, you've also represented Team O and Team O Red in 2017. But I want to go even further back and ask you, like, how did you get involved in volleyball? Like, what was the beginning stages?
yeah, so as a young kid, I was super athletic, always playing whatever sport during lunch break recess. I tried so many sports. I did running club, I did soccer, gymnastics, dance, you name it, I did it. Obviously, they didn't work for me. My mom put me in the Little League YMCA volleyball team. That was
Oh,
my first exposure to it. Yeah. And I loved it, and here I am. I'm still playing.
so how old were you when you started that? Do you
Oh
remember?
gosh, I think I entered my first year when I was 7 years
Six.
old,
That's
and then I
phenomenal.
and then that was in the States. I grew up in North Carolina for about 10
Ah,
years. And
yeah,
then I moved to Waterloo. And then I started playing with my first rep team when I was about 9 years old.
that's excellent. That's an amazing start. Did you keep playing any other sports while you started volleyball? And even now, do you still play any other sports like at the rep level, club level?
No, I would say when starting rep at age 9, it took a good portion of my time. I obviously did like some school sports like basketball. I did a little bit of track, a bit of soccer, I remember too. But
Hmm.
no, volleyball's been it for a really long time. So yeah.
That's phenomenal. What made you want to just stay with volleyball? Just got the hook?
Yeah, I mean, I loved like when I first started with the YMCA, all of my best friends were there. And I'm like, ooh, like I'm playing with my best friends. This is like a really fun sport. Let's keep going. And I kept going and I really loved the team atmosphere. I loved working with people, getting to know new people. And over time, these people became my really good friends. And yeah.
Oh, that's phenomenal to hear. That's quite a, I mean, that's an early start, and to be able to do that and carry forward, it's been great. So, what has your experiences been like? I mean, you could, since you did grow up part of your life in the States, like what has your experience been like as a person of color growing up in this sport? Like positives, negatives, anything?
I think that's a really good question because as a person of color in the States, I feel like I didn't really realize it back then because I was just so young. But I think as I got older, I started to reflect on my experiences. And I always found it difficult to fit in with the other kids.
Hmm.
Especially for me, like I was somebody who always played sports and, you know, I guess a lot of the girls my age weren't really playing sports that much, so I was always with the guys. And I feel like that alone kind of made me stand out in a way that I didn't really want to be
Mm,
like stood out, I guess. And it was just so hard to make friends. And I often looked at those group of girls as they all look the same, but I look so different.
right.
And it was kind of tough to process, but I'm like, look, I can't change myself. I can't do it. I don't want to do it. I
Hmm.
know that if these people don't want to be my friends, then they don't want to be my friends, and it's their loss, not mine. So yeah, that was my thought process, and it was really confusing, and I always wondered why. And I think now I can understand why they did that. I
Hmm.
feel like it's the fear of involving someone who looks different, who is different, that may spark some sort of adversity, I guess. But yeah, like in essence, it was confusing and it was difficult.
I mean, when you moved from there to here, I mean, Waterloo is fairly diverse.
Yeah.
What was that like playing volleyball at that age? Still the same thing, or did you find an improvement at all?
Definitely from my experience, just coming to Canada, Canada's a lot more, in my experience, was a lot more accepting of people of color, with different races, ethnicities, all of that. And I felt much more at ease, like just subconsciously, I was like, okay, there's another girl who looks like me. I'm not the only one. And there's a
Hmm.
guy who's a different color. There's a guy who speaks another language. Like, this is really cool. And from there, I felt like it's not like I was super uptight before, but I really felt at ease. Like I could just be myself without having to worry about what others may think of me. And
Yeah, I think like if someone who's listening to this or seeing this as a video, like it, if you've if you've grown up in Canada, you don't really realize as much how good we have it here. Like I grew up in the Caribbean. Even my move to here, the first thing I did, and I moved when I was an adult. I moved when I was 30. Um, my first thing was I got to find a place to play volleyball. But I also, in the back of my mind, had, you know, I've got this weird British Caribbean accent, so it doesn't sound super Trinidadian like where I'm from. People were just wondering about it. I'm short, which is another weird thing about me wanting to play volleyball. So, although up here, its population size is so great, and the diversity of people in terms of not just ethnicity, but in terms of sizes playing the sport is just absolutely beautiful. I mean, we do have it really good here in that way. Um, so let's talk about a little bit of why we're actually here. Tell me a bit about Project Pastels. Like, what was your motivation for starting this?
so, for those who don't know, Project Pastels is a nonprofit organization that aims to empower youth to conquer prejudicial barriers through sports. A little bit of a mouthful, yes,
Yeah.
but essentially the goal of Project Pastels is to increase BIPOC participation in sports. BIPOC meaning Black, Indigenous people of color, for those who don't know. And it's also about, giving adolescents a platform to share their experiences. And especially, I think we both know that sports acts as kind of like a medium to, or a fuel to raise our confidence. And I want BIPOCs to feel empowered while they're playing sports so that they can conquer the prejudicial barriers that are present in society. Um, and I guess to answer the question why I started, so obviously I'm a minority and I have experienced racism, and I know people who have. And when I saw the Black Lives Matter movement happen this last year, my brain automatically went to sports because I knew that in comparison to other aspects of society, athletics is a powerful way to unite people and combat discrimination. And that sport serves as an equalizer where, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, we all unite to achieve a common goal.
Yeah, I think people don't realize how powerful it actually is, or people who are outside of sport don't realize, from an athlete's point of view, how powerful that is. That the space called sport becomes really safe once you find a good nucleus in it. Um, so tell me a bit about the Athlete Alliance. How does that now piece into Project Pastels?
Yeah, so the Athlete Alliance is a segment I started early on with my nonprofit. It's a segment where we give athletes a platform to share their experiences in sport and share their experience with racism and just kind of piece them together and say, that like this is why sport serves as an awesome equalizer. And I've been really fortunate to have awesome athletes, with different racial backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, sport backgrounds. So as you hear these people speak, you're getting like a piece of the puzzle, like you're getting a story from this side and this side and that person. So it's really diverse in that way.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. I mean, I loved that. I was seeing you giving a platform for persons from hockey, from persons from soccer, to speak out, and not just persons of color. You're giving to allies as well, which is great. It's like a really equal platform for people to share their views, for athletes to share their views. And one thing that you really mentioned when you were giving the background to Project Pastels was that voice of the athletes. I mean, how do you find your teammates and friends? How has their voice around um, this feeling around the George Floyd incident and how it's affected the globe, how it's affected they themselves? Like, how has their voice been? Are they open to speaking up to you or to each other? Are they just like kind of closed and going, I really don't know what to make of this yet. How does this affect me? How does this affect, the people around me?
Yeah, I think obviously when that incident happened, it just was extremely traumatizing and so shocking, right? That this deep-rooted systemic racism that we have, it's still here to this day.
Hmm.
And I'm really, really lucky that I have awesome friends who are knowledgeable about these topics, who keep themselves up to date in the news. So like we're able to have like mature conversations about this. And I think I could say this about them, like they were really shocked. And I was shocked too. And I feel like when I heard about it, I shouldn't have been shocked. I should have known that this was going on a lot more than I thought it was. I should have known, especially as a person of color, as a minority. And then I felt at a loss because I didn't find myself super educated with that. Like I didn't know it was that bad. And with that, like I'm super like my friends and we were like, okay, this like this is happening. It's sad, but it's happening. And what are we gonna do about it?
Hmm.
And I brought up the point, I'm like, how many people actually know what's actually going on? It's all about awareness right now. Like you can't address a problem if nobody knows about it. And with that being said, that was one of the sole reasons why I started Project Pastels. I wanted to spread awareness about these things. And not only that, I wanted to help alleviate it, help fix it, because we know sports is an awesome place. Regardless of your race or ethnicity, like I said before, we all unite to achieve a common goal. And also, I learned that not everyone is going to have the same level of advocacy as you. Not everyone is going to start their own nonprofit. Not everyone is going to be a full-fledged activist going to marches and really standing up for what they believe in, and that's okay. Everybody shows what they like and what they support through various means, whether it's liking an Instagram post, sharing it with another on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and what have you, and that's okay because at the end of the day, it's all a ripple effect. Because if you send it to person B will send it to person C, and so on and so forth. And now you have almost 1,000 people who could be aware of what's going on right now. So
Oh, you're absolutely right. Like I actually don't, on my personal social media, don't follow too many of our Ontario-based volleyball things. Um, I really did that, and I won't lie, because of my job. I didn't want people to approach me outside of my work in an unprofessional way, but people have been really good about not doing that. But what I have seen is that athletes having a voice, but even coaches and referees, and everyone as part of the entire network, former players, that they're all speaking up and they're doing exactly what you're doing, but you're doing it in a much more structured way where you share, not just athlete stories, you're sharing education as well. I mean, you're even sharing about how COVID, this one got me. You were sharing about how COVID was affecting racialized communities. you know, and it's bringing it back to us. And you were even going beyond our borders and sharing stories from Sri Lanka even. I was like, this is phenomenal. So like, kudos to you for that. One thing I do want to say though is that, you know, don't feel too beat up about not knowing about systemic racism, not learning any of that stuff, because my experience, at least I find when I moved to Canada, I've been here 7 years. It's not super duper long, but in that time, like, I didn't realize Black history was not really, like, more modern Black history was not taught in schools. And not just Black history, but any persons of color. Like, you know, we have no real strong history about persons from China, Japan, Asian countries in that way. Uh, Filipinos, nothing, nothing. India, nothing. Like, it's just not there. So you sort of have to create it or discover it on your own. And that's a big part of it. And we also are still learning about how the full system works, and, you know, what is discriminatory and what is not, what we might perceive to be discriminatory, or what the architect of a system may have thought was fair, but, you know, not given all the information, you know, it may not be fair. Um, so, you know, I think your generation and my generation are both growing and learning together. And hopefully we'll do some really, really positive things to equalize a playing field for everyone. I'm saying playing field, but living field really is what it is, society as a whole. Um, I just want to go back. I remember one of the first videos I saw was like from Project Pastels, was an athlete from Brazil. And this is, like, you know, when I was looking out at what you were doing, I didn't think that this would be something that you'd be touching, but it was a really good, impactful video of this athlete talking about her experience playing volleyball here and what it was like growing up in Brazil uh, for for I think it was her club. I could be wrong, but she brought out other issues like um, what's accepted culturally one country to another. So for us, we have a really high tolerance level here in Canada, which is phenomenal. But it was good to see what other countries do, because if you're an athlete and you're traveling, you may be shocked to find out what's normal. It may be shocking to you. Um, in her case, she was talking about, you know, skin color as being part of saying you're athletic or more athletic, and the one that really hit home to me was body composition, um, because people were going, or coaches were basically had a space where, you know, scales were in the gym and you were saying you have to lose this amount of weight to play. And I know growing up, I've seen that happen to girls and guys as well. So it's really nice to see you bring out some of that stuff that still speaks about discrimination, even a little bit beyond persons of color. Or actually, not even beyond, it's still technically within the context. So kudos to you for that one. I encourage anyone to join on and you know, jump on Project Pastels on Instagram and take a look at that video. That one blew me away. Um,
Yeah, it's speaking about that video, I was really lucky. One of my really good friends decided to like I told her about Project Pastels, the Athlete Alliance, and she was such a champ, and she was like, okay, yeah, I wanna voice my story. And I knew that obviously now in the Western world, like there's this huge talk with body image, mental wellness, and how that, you know, relates to each other. And it's like, it can be so traumatizing for someone to step on a scale and see their weight and being told that they're okay, yeah, you may be a little bit too big right now, but like you need to lower your weight down. Like that's
mhm,
not something here that's acceptable to say to a female, especially to a growing female who
mhm,
has feelings, who has emotions, and who would be scarred from an incident like that. So it's so
exactly.
important to address these things and to, you know, to show those younger girls that you're not alone, that there are other people who are going through the exact same thing as you.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. It's phenomenal. Another thing I really liked was that a lot of the athletes you interviewed, they all sort of echoed what you're saying, where sport is this, it's sort of in this bubble and it's just equalizing space. And, you know, a lot of them said they did not face discrimination themselves, but I did like that. I think it was one or two did say, you know, they heard racial slurs or they had a racial slur say to them about their performance. in volleyball in particular. So for us to say that this is out of volleyball would be a lie. It happens in small pockets, is that we may not hear it. Have you faced anything like that, or your teams growing up? And how, if so, how did you deal with it? Or are you just lucky enough to like not ever have that experience?
Think being a person of color, especially in a more, I guess, like you could say, white-dominated female sport, it's very different. Like I know when I step onto the court, I know mentally that it's all about my skills and it's all about what I can do to help my team and to help my team score. But there's also another side of the spectrum where it's like, okay, yeah, I'm a lot tall, like I'm taller, I'm broader. I may not have that thin build like my other teammates, but that doesn't mean that I'm not good enough. It's not one size fits all for everyone, right? And going back to, like to the scale thing, I'm performing my best at a certain weight right now, and that's what should matter. And nobody should feel like nobody should feel like because they weigh a certain number that they can't play as well, or they should be told to lose to play so
Mhm.
that they can play better when that's really not the case, you know? And yeah, you know what? I've been really lucky to be part of an amazing organization that sees racial discrimination and discrimination of any sorts as a prominent issue in our society. And we're able to like talk about this. Like I remember in the summer, I got with my team and we talked about what happened with George Floyd. And it was definitely uncomfortable, but it was a talk that needed to be had. So because of that, I'm able to thrive and talk about these monumental issues in a very comforting and learning environment. Like I know I'm not going to be judged if I were to call a meeting now to talk about something, because our coaches and my teammates, all of us, it's all about learning. Like you said, like we're part of a generation that we're still learning about things, and that's where it's all about. So yeah, I've been really lucky to be part of a team and an organization that sees these issues and really wants to bring light to them.
Yeah, that's it's amazing that you have like a really good nucleus there that you can, you know, be yourself and feel yourself and be self-expressive. I mean, I grew up in the Caribbean, and I can't say I felt like that in a lot of spaces. Not even in school sometimes, which is weird because everyone was my color. You know, half the population was my race, but I had different thoughts around. You know, I think persons who identify as one gender or the other are just people. It wasn't socially acceptable where I grew up. Um, I pretty much had a really big mixed group of friends. Some were athletes, some were not athletes. They all got along with each other, but some conversations you couldn't have in front of others, political even sometimes, like you know. But it's really good that your clubs and that your teammates and that your coaches and anyone else involved in that process, and I'm assuming parents as well. I don't want to leave them out of the mix because they're so important to all of this. That they are creating that positive space for everyone to feel free and speak their mind and deal with any negative feelings that they may have. Um, that's one thing, but I mean, I love that you were talking to allies as well. Do you plan to speak to more people who are allies, or do you have any messages for persons who are allies or in that learning process? Because I mean, a lot of people by nature are not, you know, not educated about BIPOC issues. So it's a learning curve even more for them as well, right?
Mhm. Well, yeah. So one of the main goals of Project Pastels is to develop a scholarship fund for BIPOCs, because, I mean, it's no secret, BIPOCs, like there is a huge economic disparity with BIPOCs compared to white people, right? Like even with my recent post in Project Pastels, I touched on how many BIPOCs are losing their jobs during this time. So it's really no secret. And establishing that fund is a long-term goal of ours. Um, and in terms of, sorry, could you repeat the question again? I think I answered
In
something.
terms of interviewing and having more people
Right.
speak up as their experience as being an ally, do you plan on doing more of those?
Yeah, sorry. Yes, I think it's not just about reaching the BIPOC side of things, it's about looking at the whole picture, right? Because in order to solve this issue or alleviate it, everybody needs to work together. So it's not just about BIPOCs, it's about white people as well, non-racialized. So yeah, and I plan on going to schools and talking to younger children about this issue. It may be a little daunting, but what I learned through my research with Project Pastels is that children can develop racial bias as early as age 4. Like, that's crazy young. And many research has supported the works of unity and teamwork within sports to help alleviate this when those children get older. So it's all about targeting, the allies, of when they're younger, so we can create a more safe, inclusive environment where BIPOCs and white people can grow together, non-racialized.
That's phenomenal. I love that. So we said a lot of good things here about Project Pastels and Latin Alliance and all that stuff. Have you had any challenges in what you've been doing?
Yeah, so I touched on it a little bit before, but while telling people about Project Pastels and reaching out to them, I noticed that people have different levels of advocacy. And I did touch base on it before and saying that, it's okay, because at the end of the day, people will get the message and people will understand what you're doing and will hopefully help you with it. But at the beginning, it wasn't really like that. I thought that everybody had to have the same level of advocacy as me, starting a nonprofit and reaching out to all these people. But that's not the case. I learned that early on. It was a hard lesson to learn, but I'm okay with it right now. And it's really understanding who you can work with and what you're working with, because you have to understand the demographics of people, right? So if I'm, for example, targeting teens, teens are always on their phones, on Instagram and all of that. And because of that, we see all these super cool graphics from other nonprofits. And so many teens are reposting them. And because of that, teens are, they're becoming more aware of these issues through a different means than obviously news and other sources, right? But at the end of the day, they're getting the message. So it's really understanding who your target demographic is. And I'm really thankful that I learned that early on. And another thing that I found was it's just all about awareness. I touch base on it a lot, and it's all about awareness, because even throughout my time with Project Pastels, I learned so much. For example, I learned that a lot of countries use sports as a medium to integrate BIPOCs into society. I didn't know that. That was super cool.
Even
And
Canada.
I did more research on it. And I'm like, why aren't more governments using this? Because when you can, I guess, integrate them into society, it solves all these problems.
Yes, it does.
So
It does.
yeah, it's been super eye-opening and monumental for me, and I'm super happy that people want to follow along and people want to learn more about this topic like me. And yeah, it's been super eye-opening, and I'm really happy that I have this platform now.
That's awesome. You should probably delve into the world of support for development and peace. That's a much broader view of some of those things that you'll see in sport that are not about the technical and tactical side, but really about the societal changes that sport can bring. So it's a phenomenal world, and you can learn a lot from it. So finally, you are who you are because of your parents. You probably don't know that yet. It took me till I was over 30 to understand that I am who I am because of my parents and their influence. How have your parents really supported you through this journey of general volleyball and striving to be the best player that you can be, and or that you choose to be? And most importantly, how does that translate to their support into supporting Project Pastels and your youth advocacy? Because youth advocacy is a very, very strange space, and a lot of parents don't want their kids to step into there because it feels a bit unsafe, and they learn a lot of the harsh realities of the world. But your parents seem to be supporting you really well.
Yeah, I mean, where do I start? Ever since I was little, it's been all about trying new things and giving me the freedom to try new things and learn about all sorts of topics. And I really think that's where my creativity and my want to advocate for things comes from. Whether it's sports, like when I started playing sports, it was never really about the win. It's not all about winning, and that's what people would say. Like it really wasn't for them. It was all about, am I really doing what I love? And I love volleyball, and they've supported me nonstop. Like I've been lucky enough to play in several, championship matches, and I would talk to them before, and my mom would be like, it's okay. Like, why are you nervous? Like, I mean, it's okay to be nervous, but at the end of the day, we're still going to love you. Like, your friends are still going to love you and all of that. So they really put me at ease when I feel super nervous, which I'm really thankful for. And another thing you mentioned was like cultivating an environment. And I really think that if like some people are really scared to try new things or maybe get into this topic of youth advocacy, but I'm like, if you really want to bring about change is uncomfortable, whether you like it or not. And I think that it takes that one leap of faith. And then after that, it's not going to be easy, but it'll definitely feel a lot easier on you and your mind. So I guess my advice to those people would be just to don't be afraid to take that leap of faith. You may fall, but you get back up and life keeps going on. And that's a message that was really conveyed from my mom to me. It's like, if I want to try something new, don't be afraid to try something new. Like life is so short. Just go out, do whatever you want to do it with love, do it with passion, help others, and see where you end up. And it's a very, obviously easier said than done, yes, but it's a very simple motto. And I find myself looking to that every day. And with Project Pastels, it's like, this is a topic I really love and I'm very passionate about. And I took that leap of faith of starting it. I was a little nervous. I'm like, how are people going to react? And turns out people really liked it. And I was super happy about that. And I took that leap of faith, and here we are. I'm talking to you about this. And so, yeah, it's all about taking that leap of faith, having confidence in yourself, and just going out there and doing what you love with passion. So, yeah.
Doing what you love with passion. That's great advice from your mom. Yeah. Awesome. Well, you know what? Like, people sometimes wonder what the OVA is like on the staff side of things, but I could tell you, like, from where I sit, from the community outreach and grassroots side, and definitely from all the other aspects. Like, one thing that we do have this thread running through us that we agree about and that we try to um, project and empower everyone in our organization to do is realize that, yeah, we're here for competitions and events and leagues and you name it, but really our volleyball courts are the classrooms for the lessons of life. Like, our rules are built that way, our policies are built that way, and the information we try to share is built that way, to be inclusive, to be fair, and to give, a nice open space to everyone, but also to reflect your culture and your behaviors on the court, you know. Um, so it's really glad to see that at least some of that stuff is shining through someone like you, athletes like you, and your teammates, and your club by extension, obviously, to be part of that full support system. So yeah, let's keep volleyball and keep sport as this liberating, equalizing experience for humans that you keep talking about and the Project Pastel advocates for. Thank you so much, Atara. This has been wonderful.
Thank you
I
for
just want to
having
wish
me.
you, like, on behalf of all of us at the OVA, really good 2021 and a good jump into University of Toronto. So congratulations on that. And of course, to let us know, you've got my email, you know how to find me. Reach out and see however we can connect to help Project Pastels become stronger and bigger in any way possible.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed talking about this.